They too were locked, but they opened fairly easily. "Anyhow, that's out," said the inspector. "She was in here herself, dressing, when it happened." "So she says," said Sullivan dryly, and the two men exchanged glances and went back across the hall. Up to that time, oddly enough, they had not found the weapon. The medical examiner had suggested a hatchet, but there was none in sight. Then one of the fingerprint men happened to glance up, and he saw a stain on the tester top of the bed. Somebody got a chair, and being tall he was able to reach up with a clean towel and bring down the axe. "It made me kind of sick," said the inspector later. "I'm used to blood and all that, but an axe. And that little old woman not weighing 100 pounds. It just about got me." The discovery of the axe, while gratifying, was not particularly productive, however. It was a moderately heavy wood axe, with the usual long handle, but it bore only what looked like old and badly smeared fingerprints. At the extreme end there were no prints whatever. "Either wore gloves or wiped it pretty carefully," was the comment of the fingerprint man, after a look at it. None of them knew then, of course, that it belonged in the Lancaster woodshed, and practically all of them except Sullivan had veered to the idea of a homicidal maniac. The brutality of the crime, its apparent lack of motive, and as the inspector said later, the utter recklessness of the entire business looked like that. "You've got to get your lunatic into the house," was Sullivan's comment. "He hadn't wings, that's sure." They began to study the room once more. The chest under the bed had at that time no significance for them, and the room was not particularly disturbed. Mrs. Lancaster's bed stood with its head against the wall toward her husband's room, and she had been found lying on the side toward the door into the hall. On one side of the bed was the entrance to the bathroom, which the police had found shut, and on the other a closet door, also closed. Beyond the closet door in the corner was a small chest of drawers, and one of these drawers was partly open, although its contents, mainly the dead woman's nightdress and bed jackets, were undisturbed. There had apparently been no struggle, but that part of the room was a shambles. Not content with the first blow, probably fatal, 5 or 6 had been struck. In other words, as the inspector said later, either some furious anger or pure mania lay behind the attack, or possibly fear. he added as an afterthought. And, to quote him again, "Well, there we were," he said. "We had some clues, as you might call them." We'd sliced that sliver with the blood off the window screen, and Sullivan was taking care of those bits of grass. But there was nothing on the axe or anywhere else. Also the house was shut, and shut tight. We didn't know about the hoarding then, but those lower floor windows and screens had new catches on them, and everybody in the house swore, and they were right at that every door had been locked and kept locked. Take the outside of the house, too. Here was the gardener. Nobody got past him, as we know, and I had my doubts about anybody except a professional strong man being able to climb one of those porch pillars with that axe, as you may say, in his teeth. Even the ground outside didn't help us any. Of course the earth was baked hard, but take a house like that with grass right up to the building itself, and there's mighty little chance of a print anyhow. Then there's another thing. I can understand that nobody heard anything. It's likely they couldn't, with that canary wound up tight and going hard. But it's not credible that whoever did that thing wasn't covered with blood from head to foot, and yet beyond a mark or two we spotted on that red hall carpet, probably from the gardener's shoes, there wasn't a sign of blood outside that room. For those wounds had bled. Especially the one in the neck. They bled and bled fast. Our medical examiner said that it would be practically impossible to strike those 5 blows and then cover the poor woman as she was covered, without the killer showing something. And maybe a good bit. You see, she'd been arranged. In a way, that is, the body was straight in the bed and a sheet drawn up part way. And the mere matter of getting that key meant stains, and plenty of them. The key had puzzled them, and Miss Emily's frantic search for it. No one explained it to them, and still of course they knew nothing of the gold. We were pretty much at sea about that time, he acknowledged. Either it was an inside or an outside job, and there were arguments against either or both. It looked like one of those motiveless crazy crimes which drive the department wild, he added. The least to go on and the most showy from the press point of view. You could guess a crazy man with a pair of wings, and you could say that a bird went crazy with the heat and carried 3 blades of grass up onto that tin roof. But short of that, where were we? And nobody, axe or no axe, had climbed those porch pillars. We caught a cameraman shinning up a porch column that night to get a picture, and the marks he left were nobody's business. That's the outside end of it. Then take the inside.